Let's start with the question. Do Minecraft functions have inputs and outputs like conventional functions? Now I know that technically in theory one could just use blocks to convey values in and out of any body of code. What I'm asking is whether or not a built-in syntax exists for input parameters and return values. Similar to what pretty much all other programming languages consider to be functions. So how can we solve this? There's one possible answer. Answer 1. So, especially in 1.13 when a function, command is called, you need to give it parameters. That sounds a lot like an input to me. You could key coordinates for instance. Or you could use a soft variable, like the nearest non-player entity at e. type equals player. You can also have other commands manage your inputs to zero in on something extremely specific and conditional. A system to manage in input or victim s of the command. And you can set it up so that either the player has instant control over triggering, or the game is constantly sensing for the trigger conditions. Then you have a lot of foo per bar to do with the command once the victim is selected. One thing you can do that is relevant is perform math operations on two stored score values, such as adding them, setting one equal to the other, or doing something if they are equal. As far as output goes, obviously there are lots of things that can be considered output. You could say hello world. You can build something. You can interact with the world, or the scoreboard. And you can call other functions. What I think other people are trying to get at is that there is a very limited ability to use scores as inputs. You can, in some limited ways. But you can't directly use a stored score or tag as a single x coordinate in TP for example. And you can't call a function passing another function as a native function to it as an input as you would in functional programming. You are limited to using the other function as a called output that is hard-coded. If you want input from another command you need to store the command's output first. And you are fairly limited to what data can be both stored and accessed by downstream commands. As of 1.13 with the next execute, store, tag, tick and load features, I can't say that there is much distinction between what can be done with data packs and functional-like programming capabilities. But the game is so state-dependent and the limitations on inputs to commands make it hard to say that commands provide the true functional equivalent to computer programming functions. But they are comparable and getting much more powerful. The new store and other features in Execute are incredible and very relevant to this question. For another example, see this video on creating a sphere using recursion. You call some commands that call other functions in a recursive loop with a tail condition to produce a sphere. That is sort of the hallmark of Intro to Functional Programming. I hope this answer helped, and if it did, please drop a comment and subscribe.